Today we're going to be talking about underrated fighters in the UFC. Starting off, we have got Garry. Now look, I understand this like the in thing right now, the trend to hate on Garry. And don't get me wrong, that Garry stuff when it was happening was pretty funny. But this guy is good. Garry's probably a future UFC welterweight champion. He is 9-1 in the UFC. His only loss comes to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Look, call me delusional if you want. But Garry on a full training camp preparing for Shavkat Rakhmonov, I think Garry beats him. That was a really close fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov. And some of the more notable wins that Garry has in his UFC career: Carlos Prates, Jeff Neal, he's beaten MVP. He's also beaten Neil Magny, which people might be like, why are you saying Neil Magny is a good win? Neil Magny's one of like the best gatekeepers in UFC history. Let's just be honest. You have to be good to beat Neil Magny. If not, he's going to fraud check you. He also beat Daniel Rodriguez by stoppage in the first round, which is a win that's aging really well because Daniel Rodriguez is now ranked inside of the UFC's top 15. But let's go through his last performance against Carlos Prates. Absolutely dominated him for 4 rounds. Right or wrong, Carlos Prates couldn't do anything to Garry for 4 rounds. Now, the last round, that's where it got a bit shaky. Carlos Prates did start landing the big shots on Garry. Some questionable moments. Garry on all fours crawling away. Looked a bit suspect. But for the most part, that was a very dominant win for Garry. And Carlos Prates was coming into that fight with a lot of hype. A lot of people were picking him to actually stop Garry. And really, outside of that 5th round, he offered Garry nothing. Garry schooled him. The Jeff Neal matchup, again, Jeff Neal has been a mainstay in the UFC's top 10 for a very, very long time. And some people say Jeff Neal won this fight. I've never understood that argument. Garry beat Jeff Neal pretty comfortably, in my opinion. And finally, MVP. The MVP fight. This right here, for me, was kind of like the crossover as to Garry isn't just a striker. He's a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. The way he was able to use his fight IQ in this matchup, which is a very underrated part of Garry's game, the way that he was able to just implement that specific game plan, which we had never seen from him before, to beat someone who is so dangerous in MVP. Great performance. Might have been a dog shit fight. I'm not saying the fight was entertaining. It was ass. But the performance from Garry was really good. 9-1 in the UFC. I think people don't like him. I understand what he'd done with the Neil Magny situation. I didn't like that either. I thought that was really shitty. Also, the Neil Magny performance, that was really dominant as well. Probably should have finished Neil Magny, to be honest. But yeah, I understand if you don't like him because of how he handled the Neil Magny situation, I get that. But I feel like a lot of people don't like Garry because of the whole wife thing and how that kind of took off on social media. Therefore, they don't give him the respect that he deserves. This guy is an elite operator, and I think he can become UFC welterweight champion. Next up, we've got Magomed Ankalaev. Now, people might be saying, how is Magomed Ankalaev underrated? He's the champion. But people do not give Magomed Ankalaev the respect that he deserves, in my opinion. Now, I am not a Magomed Ankalaev fan. I want Pereira to win the first time around. I want Pereira to win second time around. But you can't take away what this guy's been able to do in the light heavyweight division. He's 12-1, 6 wins by KO/TKO, 6 wins by decision, which, when people think of Magomed Ankalaev, they think he's boring. They think he's like... Magomed Ankalaev is a really confusing fighter, in my opinion, because a lot of people seem to think they look at him, look at his beard, where he comes from, his second name, and think he's like the light heavyweight version of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and that's not what this guy is. He's a southpaw boxer, very, very different style from what you see from the normal traditional Dagestani guys that cross over into the UFC. Don't get me wrong, this guy can grapple, and we've seen it before, but a lot of people just get confused on what this guy's game actually is. Some of his notable wins: Alex Pereira. Now, that was a really close matchup against Pereira. Came down to 1 round, in my opinion, in the 3rd round. But he was outstriking Alex Pereira, who a lot of people consider to be one of the best strikers ever in UFC. Magomed Ankalaev was outstriking him, was way quicker than him. The only person that actually got hurt in a striking exchange in the fight was Alex Pereira from Magomed Ankalaev. This guy's a slick southpaw boxer, a really good backhand as well. Volkan Oezdemir, former title challenger, has been a mainstay in the top 10 for years now. I think that's a really, really good win to have. Johnny Walker. Now, I know Johnny Walker's chinny, but the way Magomed Ankalaev put him on a fucking t-shirt needs to be studied. He beat the fuck out of Johnny Walker. He really, really did. Other names, Nikita Krylov, he's beat him. He's beaten Ion Cutelaba. He's beaten... Fuck, who else has he beat? Anthony Smith. He's on a 12-fight win streak right now in the UFC's light heavyweight division. His only loss comes to that submission against Paul Craig, but we know Paul Craig is the best, worst fighter in UFC history. Magomed Ankalaev, Alexander Rakic, another win as well. Really underrated. I mean, the work this guy's done in the light heavyweight division is insane, and people do just get confused about his style. He's a boxer, not a wrestler. Next, we've got Nasim Mav. Yo, this guy... Why is no one talking about Nasim Mav? This guy's underrated as hell. He's the second best middleweight right now in the UFC. Now, people might say, what about Khamzat Chimaev? I get that, and I do think Khamzat is going to beat DDP. But, as of right now, looking at who's done what in the division, Nasim Mav has done a hell of a lot more in the middleweight division than Khamzat Chimaev. KO'd Israel Adesanya, beat Brendan Allen, which is a good win because Brendan Allen... He's a top 10 UFC middleweight, was on a crazy win streak when Mav beat him. Jared Cannonier, former title challenger, been in the top 10 since the fucking dawn of the middleweight division. It feels like this guy's that old. And also, people might say, well, the Jared Cannonier fight was close, early stoppage. Nasim Mav was turning the tide in that fight. And I know in hindsight, and you know you can't predict the future, but it was looking like Nasim Mav was on his way to KO Jared Cannonier, or on his way to stop him. He's also beat Roman Dolidze as well, another top 10 UFC middleweight. His last 4 fights have all been against top 10 UFC middleweights. And he's not fighting for the belt next. By what do you by? Instead, he's doing another contender fight against Kyle Bralho. And people are still underestimating, are like doubting this guy in the Bralho matchup. And Mav is putting Bralho on a fucking t-shirt. I am telling you this right now. Who is Bralho's best win outside of Cannonier, who Mavov's already beaten? Paul Craig. Nasim Mav in his hometown is smoking Kyle Bralho and then walking his way into a title fight. Now, can he beat Khamzat Chimaev? I'm probably going to say no to that one, but this guy's underrated. His work in the middleweight division, what he's done, the run he's on, doesn't get enough credit. Nasim Mav, criminally overrated. Gamrot right now is the most underrated lightweight in the entire division. Going through some of Gamrot's most notable wins: RDA, former UFC lightweight champion, great win. Arman Tsarukyan. Now, I understand that this was a really close fight between both guys, and a lot of people do think Arman won the fight. But nonetheless, Arman Tsarukyan is a win on Gamrot's resume, and Arman Tsarukyan probably should be fighting for the title next. Then we've got Dan Hooker. Now, before people get to the comments and tell me Dan Hooker beat Mateusz Gamrot, no, he didn't. Go back and watch that fight. If that was anywhere else in the world other than Australia, Gamrot would have had his hand raised. Gamrot beat Dan Hooker. I'll die on that hill. Gamrot beat him. And then after that, he beat Fiziev. Knee ended up blowing out. He's been trying to get a fight with a lot of top contenders. Arman Tsarukyan turned down the fight with him. It literally seems like nobody wants to fight Gamrot, and it's a high risk, low reward fight. Gamrot isn't the biggest name. He's not the biggest trash talker. So if you beat Gamrot, you get nothing from it. But if you lose to Gamrot, then you will drop down the rankings a fair bit. Gamrot's really good in my opinion. Does he become champion? I don't think so. But I still think there's a lot of guys in the lightweight division that Gamrot would beat pretty easy. In the heavyweight division, we have got the top 5 gatekeeper in Curtis Blaydes. Look, Curtis Blaydes, I like him. I mean, this guy gets so close every time to winning the belt, and then he fucks it up. This guy's, in my opinion, Curtis Blaydes is a bit of an IQ issue. That is one of his problems in there. But he's got some really good notable wins. Jailton Almeida, nobody was picking this guy to beat Almeida outside of me. Go back, check my predictions. I was picking him to beat Almeida. He did get thrown around like a ragdoll in the first round, but nonetheless, got the second round stoppage over Almeida. Really, really good win. JDS, another really good win in my opinion, and he stopped him with his boxing. That's the thing with Curtis Blaydes, like, he is really, really well rounded. Obviously, most known for his wrestling. That's kind of his thing. But he's got really good hands as well. He's a really good boxer in my opinion. And Alexander Volkov, that win's just aging really, really well. Volkov is really, really improving in the heavyweight division. Arguably, probably should be fighting Tom Aspinall over Cyril Gane because he beat Gane. like he just did beat Gan in their last fight. But nonetheless, Curtis Blades, a good top 5 gatekeeper of the heavyweight division that I don't think gets the respect that he deserves. And finally, Aljamain Sterling. This guy is the most disrespected UFC champion of all time, in my opinion. If it wasn't for Merab, he is the greatest bantamweight of all time. Also, in the featherweight division, he's much better than what his rank would suggest. I mean, this guy got 3 title defenses in the bantamweight division. Notable wins, Henry Cejudo. Now, I understand Henry Cejudo had a layoff when he was coming back. A lot of people were picking Henry Cejudo to beat Aljamain Sterling, including myself. And don't get me wrong, close fight. But Aljamain Sterling out-grappled an Olympic gold medalist to beat him. Unheard of. And Henry Cejudo, 2-division UFC world champion. Next up, Corey Sandhagen, one of the most underrated wins in UFC history, in my opinion. That might be a bit far, but Corey Sandhagen, who have you seen do that to Sandhagen? That quickly, beat him that easy? Nobody. I'm just going to tell you right now, nobody. And I don't think we'll ever see someone beat Corey Sandhagen that quick, that decisive, and that easy ever again, as long as Corey Sandhagen is competing. Smoked him, took his back, strangled him in the first round. Petr Yan. Now I'm talking about Petr Yan too. The first fight was what it was. Yan's fault at the end of the day. But people will say Aljamain Sterling shit for winning a close fight against Petr Yan, but say Petr Yan is better than Aljamain Sterling, even though he lost a close fight to Aljamain Sterling. Go back and watch that fight. Take your bias aside. Go and get help. I know some people in the MMA world suffer from brain and ass syndrome, but watch the fight back. Aljamain Sterling beats Petr Yan in their rematch. Like, the amount of control he got on Yan in that fight as well was fucking insane. Insane. So disrespected. Shout out. They're the Jamaica top and all. It's as if it's meant to be destiny here. Bumba glad that Aljo was meant to be in this video. But yeah, underrated as hell. Goes up against Brian Ortega next week. And I think he beats Brian Ortega as well. Definitely better than what his rank suggests in the featherweight division. And arguably beat Movsar Evloev. But let me know in the comments below, what fighters do you think are underrated in the UFC? And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all again in the next one.